There's a little something for everyone this month at Pretty Pink Posh, including graduation, Father's Day, get well soon, and more. So for today's video, I want to give you a little peek at everything that was released this month. Plus, I want to give you lots of inspiration, so that means a ton of cards to share today. There's so many different fun new supplies this month that I just want to jump into the card making, but I'll be sure to let you know what I'm using from the new release as we go. I've tried to break this video down into kind of buckets of different themes. So the first theme are birds, and I'm using the Stencil 4-pack, which is layered birdhouses. And there are several different styles of birdhouses on the first stencil, and each stencil adds another layer of either the roof or the door, and it's just the cutest little concept because when you see it all together once it's finished, you can't believe how easy it was to make this design. So I am using smaller blending brushes, shader brushes, to use just 3 different colors on these stencils so that each of the birdhouses will have its own color combination. So you can see I'm using Distress Oxide ink. I love blending with Distress Oxide ink. I think it's super creamy. It works really well with stencils, and it's very easy to clean off the stencils as well because it's water-based. You can just spritz it with some water and wipe off that ink. So I like having these blender brushes because it allows me to get into small spaces without getting ink in the other areas. So you can see here the roof of that blue house. I'm using some darker Distress Oxide blue that is Uncharted Mariner, and I am just building up all of those little color combinations to create this fantastic background. It is so easy with the Pretty Pink Posh layering stencils. I can't tell you, if you haven't tried them, you must. This is the A Little Birdie stamp set and dies. This is such a cute set. I use the sentiment, "You're the tweetest," from the stamp set right in the middle of those houses, and then I'll stamp out 2 of the birds in alcohol-friendly ink. I'm using alcohol-friendly cardstock, and then I'm using Ohuhu markers. You don't have to go crazy if you just use a couple of different colors, but you can see I did add some shading and blending on the bluebird. Yellow is a bit harder. It's harder to really get definition and shading and blending, so you could add a little orange if you want that, but I just decided to make it simple this time. Pop up those little birds either on the little step or the roof, and then add on the blue houses some of the Aqua Shimmer Confetti, which is a beautiful color. I love this addition to the confetti line, and I can't get over how cute those birds and birdhouses are together. If you love the look of birdhouses but you want to color your own in, then the Spring Birdhouses stamp set and die set is for you. This set has 3 of the birdhouses in a slightly larger format than the stencil has. There's also a branch and a couple of little spots for the birds to sit. I will use some Ohuhu markers, some alcohol-safe ink again, and some alcohol-friendly cardstock. And I love coloring in everything with the center light being the place where the light is. So the center of the branch is where the light is. For leaves, I usually do the darkest at the base of the leaf and then swipe outward. And then for everything else, I'm going to do the center light source as well. So for the house, everything in the center is going to be the brightest. These are really fun to color in and to get a little bit of practice because you have a little bit more space to color these than those teeny tiny little birds. So if you want to practice getting some shading and dimension and a bit of a light source, these are great stamps and dies to play with. And I love how you can cut everything out. I did go back to the Little Birdie stamp set for a couple of birds for this card as well. This time I'm doing kind of reds to make little cardinals, and you can use some really light colors at first so that you can get a light source on the birds. This is the Swiss Dots stencil. It is a single stencil. I like to use cardstock tape to the back of the stencil and then tape the stencil down to my work surface so it really doesn't move. When I'm using just one color of ink like I am here, then I don't mind using a larger blending brush that's going to go over the entire stencil because it gets it done more quickly. I decided to ink blend on top of that, so it's not just little dots on a white background. It has a light tone on tone effect. I'm using a little stamp that says missing you, and I'll stamp that in black ink and then adhere down the branch. I don't want it all the way to the right because I am going to place the house popped up on some foam tape on the right hand side, so you won't see the little edge that sticks in there. And then the little bird gets popped up flying in the sky and one standing at the house. And then there are these cute little music notes, heart and flower for the birds. And of course there are dies to cut those out. So those little itty bitty dies cut out all those little accessories, which means you can either pop them up or you can use liquid glue to adhere them. And I have an embellishment tool, which I love. It is the new Simon Says Stamp embellishment tool. And I'm using that to place those items on top of the liquid glue that I've placed down. A white gel pen is great for this look because you can add little dots, little scallops, little things that you wouldn't necessarily be able to add by coloring them in, and it just makes those designs pop a little bit more. And I will link to my favorite white gel pen down in the YouTube description box under the video, as well as all the new Pretty Pink Posh stamps, dies, stencils, foil plates, and embellishments. So again, just tiny little dots, little lines, little swirlies really make a big difference on that card. How about die cutting if you don't want a stencil or color? These are the Decorative Birdhouses dies. They have lots of cute stitched elements and other little die cut elements on them. There are again 3 houses and the doorways, the roofs, all of those things you can layer on top of each other, use different colors of cardstock or cut them out all in white and then color them in with your favorite medium, whatever you want to do. There are so many mix and match options here. So I'm going to quickly put together 3 cards. Well, I mean, I wasn't as quick as this video shows, but it was relatively quick once I had all the different colors die cut out. Then you can just have fun layering. These are the Stitched Birds dies, and again, each die kind of has the bird body. It has kind of a belly, a beak, an eye, and a wing. So I like how all those little elements are in one die because there's no way if I had that tiny little beak die, I would definitely lose it. It would get dropped in the rug and then it would get vacuumed up. So I like this method of having all those little elements in one die so you don't lose them. And then they're really easy to put together. It's just popping on a wing with a little liquid adhesive. Again, using that embellishment tool to pop the eye and the beak on. And then again, adding some little decorative elements with some white gel pen if you wish. They are super cute just as they are, but I really like that look of the white gel pen because it really pops off of the darker colors of the birds. So tiny little dots, little swoops, little lines. You really don't have to be super creative or artistic to add little elements that are going to make those birds pop. Now I have several different stamps. I have Missing You, Sending Love and Hugs, and You Are the Tweetest. And then you just pop those birds up on some foam tape to finish off these cards. And this would be a really cute little gift set. You could make an entire little set of, say, 5 or 6 cards with envelopes and give them to somebody so that they would have a bunch of little bird cards to give away. Or they are really great just to send around to friends and family just because they are so cute and they're so quick and easy to put together. So here's the entire set together. And I love how colorful these turned out. I thought of one more way to use the little birdie stamp set. So these are all the birds that I stamped out originally. This bird is the one I'm going to use for the card that we're working on right now. Again, you don't have to do lots of shading and blending if you don't want. You could just pick a few different hues of the same color, a light color for the face, and then say a darker color for the tail and wings, and then a medium color for the belly, and it will look like you did a lot of shading and blending there. I like to add a little cheek sometimes, and then just use those coordinating dies to cut it out. This is the Just a Note stamps, and there are dies to cut out all of the musical elements. So these are fun just to stamp in black ink on white cardstock and then cut them out and use them on a variety of different cards. So you see here I have that little bird that I'm going to place there, and then I have the sentiment, just a little note, you make my heart sing. Those are both sentiments from the stamp set. Pop up the little staff and the music notes, and this is a clean and simple card, but I just think it is so cute to play with these little music notes. And I have a couple of the little stamps that I didn't want to die cut. I just stamped them directly on the paper and then matted this all on black cardstock so it stood out. So this is the Layered Graduation Stencils 3-pack. In each stencil, you have a graduation cap, you have a diploma, and then you have a tassel and a tie for the cap and the diploma. Really easy to line these up, and they're super cute. So I have an A2 piece of white cardstock. I have it stuck down to my Misty sticky mat, and then I have the stencil on top also stuck down, and then I use the magnet as a little additional edge there. So again, using Distress Oxide ink for the caps, I'm going traditional black soot for those black caps. Look at how crisp and clean those are. Amazing. I absolutely love these stencils. They're so easy to make these backgrounds with. Then I have antique linen Distress Oxide ink for the diplomas, and I'm using those domed foam blenders since I'm using one color pretty much per stencil, except for the last stencil. So the last stencil is the tassels and the ties for the diploma, and I thought it'd be fun to mix it up now. So I'm going to use those smaller shader brushes to blend an entire rainbow. So each line of caps and diplomas is going to get a different color of Distress Oxide ink. So the first color will be Kitsch Flamingo, and then we will move on to Saltwater Taffy for my orange, Squeezed Lemonade for my yellow, Cracked Pistachio for my green, Salvaged Patina for my light blue, and Shaded Lilac for my purple, and then I'll go back to Kitsch Flamingo at the very bottom. So just a fun take on those graduation tassels and diploma ties there. This is the Graduation Mug Editions dies. If you've heard me talk about these mug sets, you know I love them because the original winter mug set comes with the mug and the drink that sits inside, and then Pretty Pink Posh came out with editions for birthdays, for Valentine's Day, lots of different things, and now there's graduation. So I decided to cut the mug out of acetate and 2 mugs out of white cardstock, and I cut a little hole in the center of one of them. That is from the Birthday Mug Editions dies, and I'm going to place that on the acetate, and I decided last minute to ink blend a rainbow on the mug itself, so it will kind of go along with that background of the rainbow on the tassels and the diploma. So I'm using the same colors that I had out. I'm not even opening up the inks again. I'm just lightly blending with the brushes whatever ink is left on those brushes. So it's just a very light, faint rainbow. And then I have some pink drink in that mug there. I love that little shape that you can easily cut out whatever color, tea colored or coffee colored or hot cocoa colored. This is the base. So I'm going to put a white base onto the background there. And then I'll use some rainbow shimmer confetti inside the center of that base. And now I have foam strips all along the window. So I've stretched them and placed them so that they touch each other and they'll keep the shaker goodies inside. Once you take off that backing, you can just lay this mug right on top, and the shaker goodies that you had in the center will be trapped inside those foam strips of tape. Next up, we can decorate the rest of the card. So I have some black foam squares. There are 2 layers to the graduation cap so that it makes it look dimensional. And there's also a tassel and you can cut that out of any type of specialty cardstock, like glitter cardstock is so much fun on that. I also have the little congrats and the little shadow, and that I cut out of gold mirror cardstock. So between the confetti, the shiny congrats, and then the little gold tassel on the cap, I just think this is such a fun card for a graduate. So I also cut out the grad, so it says congrats grad, out of the same gold glitter cardstock that I have the tassel cut out of. So again, just a fun shaker card, and there are lots of elements in that Mug Editions dies that make a diploma, lots of other things besides that cute little cap. Next up, we'll use the hot foil congrats script. So I have my Spellbinders Glimmer machine. It is all warmed up and ready to go. I like to put sentiments like this vertically. It's just easier to get them through the die cut machine. They don't bump as much, and that means you get better foiling. So I have the timer on, and while the timer's on, I'm going to adhere a little bit of foil tape down to some smooth cardstock. Then pull out the platform and place that foil with the color side facing the foil plate down, and then place your cover plates on top and run through the die cut machine. Once that's done, you can peel off the foil and just get rid of that little tape or save it for another project, and check out how well that foils. I feel like taping the foil down really helps a lot for me to get nice, clean effects with my foiling. Next up, we have the Congrats shadow dies, and the shadow die can cut out the foil hot plate as well as the Congrats die. This little die here is from the Mug Editions, the graduation Mug Editions. It is for making a shaker on the mug. I am going to make a shaker on a regular A2 card here. So I have a piece of acetate that I am adhering down to the back of that little die cut center, and that will be my window. On the window, I'm going to place a 2023 in gold glitter, and then I have the little graduation cap again layered with some foam tape. This time I have purple glitter cardstock for the tassel and gold glitter for the numbers. So I'm going with that gold and purple. This is actually not my daughter's high school colors, but the college that she decided to go to's colors. So I thought she would like it, even though I know she's not graduating from college yet. She's just graduating from high school, but I thought she would get a kick out of having the colors on her graduation card. There's also, like I mentioned, in the Mug Editions die set, there's a little diploma that I cut out of some cream colored cardstock and then cut the tie out of the purple glitter as well. There's also the numbers, and then I'm going to combine that with the Congrats foil. So I've die cut that gold foil, and then I'm going to place foam tape on the back of this. These are the purple Shimmer confettis. They're going to be perfect for my little window that says 2023. Lots of foam tape on the back. I just wanted to make sure the whole thing stayed popped up and it wasn't going to get flat on the top or the bottom. And I like layering it this way. If you hold the side, you can make sure it lines up perfectly. I love this clean and simple card, and that gold and purple just really pops there. This is the layered music note stencils. These are a 3-pack of stencils. You can see there's quarter notes, eighth notes, just you get to layer them on top of each other. So it really makes it easy to have several different colors. Of course, you could do them all in black. That's cool too, but I definitely wanted to play with a color combination here, and I wanted to do something a little bit different than I normally do. So I have Wild Honey is my first Distress Oxide ink, and again, like I mentioned, if I'm going to color the entire stencil, I'm not going to use a teeny tiny little blending brush. I'm going to use either my domed foam or a larger blending brush. Now, these little notes have the stems and they are very thin, so you have to make sure you get ink in those stems. The blending brushes are actually a lot easier to get them into those stems. So that's why I shifted to the little shader brush. Even though I'm covering the entire stencil, it's easier to get the ink inside those tiny little thin areas, and look at how clean it came out. So here I have a large blending brush that has salvaged patina on it, so I used that. Again, any brush, because the bristles will get into those thin spots, is great for this. This is not really where the domed foam blenders shine. So here we go. Here's my color combination, that little green, blue, and orange, just a different look. And I'm going back to that A Little Note stamp set. I have You Rock stamped right on the background. And now I wanted to share the Dad Father hot foil and shadow dies. So I have the Dad die that I cut out in the word, and then the shadow as well. So you can see the background I actually cut the Dad shadow out of. So I'm going to just cover that up with the stenciled background that we've already stamped You Rock on. And while the Dad and the shadow are drying, we have the little staff and music notes to pop up. And then I popped up the Dad as well, which is really nice. Having the shadow die, it makes it easy to pop up that word. And last but not least, some of those Aqua Shimmer confettis, because yes, Dad can have confettis too that shimmer. I love this color combination. I think it's so fresh and fun and perfect for a Dad card. If you thought it was great to get a new Mug Editions dies, how about 2 new Mugs Editions dies? This is the Get Well Mug Editions dies. You can see there is a rainbow, sun, clouds, a balloon, there's little capsules, there's a thermometer, there's a band-aid. So I cut out a bunch of different elements from that die set, and you can see I have a mug from the Winter Mug die set and the little drink. I cut the tea out of craft cardstock. There's also a little Get Well Soon sentiment die. So I'm going to cut that out of the blue cardstock, and then I'll back that mug with the white cardstock. I'm not going to make this one into a shaker, although you can, and it would be super cute. But this time I'm just using the background to use that sentiment together. So I did want to place the little elements that got popped out so that you could tell what the word said. You can really do this pretty easily, especially if those little inner bubble pieces stayed stuck to the die cut. Just place a little bit of adhesive behind them and then use some type of embellishment tool or something that is sharp to kind of press them down, and then pull off the positive die cut of the word, and you've got those placed exactly where they need to be. The rainbow has a base die and then 3 arcs. The sun is layerable as well. There's a circle and then the rays with the circle. And the thermometer I cut out of white cardstock and red cardstock so I could layer the red on top of the white, and you could just color it in with a marker if you choose, but I like this way. It's super simple and easy. This is the little capsule. You can see there's a whole piece and then a half piece so that you can have that dual colored capsule. So I cut out of yellow and red cardstock, and then I'm using the halves on the different full pieces so that they are both yellow and red. There's also a die that cuts out of steam. So I cut that out of vellum, and now we'll just layer everything up. So I have some kind of dark teal cardstock matted on white cardstock. I popped up the mug, use a little bit of liquid adhesive behind the vellum. You won't really be able to see it once it dries. Plus it gives it a little bit more, the vellum a little bit more, so you actually see it in the background, whereas it can get lost if it's just the vellum by itself. I have the rainbow popped up on the top of the mug and the sun as well. This is a really happy card to send to somebody who's not feeling well. So if you remember, we started this video with birds, we moved on to graduation, and now we are in Get Well. So this is the Get Well stamp set. There are also coordinating dies. It includes a label die that cuts out those sentiments that are really cute on that stamp set. So I stamped a bunch of different images from the stamp set, and then I'm going to color them in. But for now, I'm going to stamp the sentiment right in the center of an A2 piece of white cardstock in black ink. Now again, I've stamped these images in alcohol-friendly ink, and I'm using alcohol-friendly cardstock and my Ohuhu markers. So these are teeny tiny little images. Not everything will allow you to do lots of blending and shading, but you can have some fun coloring them in. And definitely with like the tissue box, you can use the light source in the center center again, so you can see how I'm swiping from the left-hand side and the right-hand side, leaving the center white until the very end when I fill that in. So I'll do the same thing with the mug. I have a rainbow, there's a bowl of soup and a thermometer, just lots of tiny, cute little images that will be great on this card. So I just want a whole bunch of them colored in, and then I'll die cut them all out with those coordinating dies and then figure out how I want to arrange them on my card. And whenever I have a bunch of images and I want to arrange them, I usually go for a grid. So there's 3 in a row at the top, 3 in a row at the bottom, with the sentiment right in the center, breaking up that grid to make it fun. For another Get Well Soon card, I have those Swiss dots again. I have an A2 piece of white cardstock and I'm lightly blending some lumberjack plaid. I don't want it like super, super, super crazy red, but I did want a true red in that background. I like the way this turned out. I think those little dots are a great background for tons of different cards. I decided to cut it down to 4 by 5 1/4 and mat it on some craft cardstock. Now the Mug Editions dies, remember it had that little prescription piece and it had the band-aid, things that we haven't used yet. So I decided to use them on this card just as elements on the card rather than with the mug. Another new die is the Feel Better Soon dies. Cuts out each word individually. It's that really great script that Pretty Pink Posh is known for. It is thick enough that you can use a little bit of liquid adhesive behind it, or you can cut it out with a thin sheet of adhesive and just peel and stick. The band-aid is super cute, and I love the little heart that you can place on the center of it. Just a simple, clean and simple card, but is a great way to use some of those other elements of the Mug Edition dies. I'd love to hear what theme you're working on in your card making this month. Is it graduation? Are you starting on weddings? What's going on in your craft space? Let me know in the comments below. YouTube thinks you might enjoy watching this video next. As always, I want to thank you so much for stopping by and spending time with me today. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you again soon. Usually when I play this back, you can't hear this. There's no way you can't hear that though. That is so loud. I mean, he's having fun with his friends, I guess?